Hello there. I'm Greg Sanders with the G Spot. I find it so you don't have to. And this is our review for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The most anticipated game of this generation as it currently stands, especially in terms of PlayStation 5 and PC releases. It was developed by the Square Enix Creative Business Unit 1. It was published by Square Enix, and because I love shining a spotlight on developers and giving names to the people who are working on this, and I have their names over here because there's no way I was going to remember all this, we're going to acknowledge them very quickly. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was directed by Naoki Hamaguchi, Motomo Toriyama, Tetsuya Nomura. It was produced by Yoshinori Kitase, again, someone who worked on the original Final Fantasy VII. It was designed by Teruki Endo and Masanori Sato. It was programmed by Daki Hoshiniya, Satoru Koyama, Ro Hara. Its lead artist was Tetsuya Nomura, Shintaro Takai, Roberto Ferrari. Its writer was Kazushi Nojima. I am tripping up on this bad. And it was composed by Mitsuo Suzuki, Masashi Hamayuzu, and it will release on the 29th of February 2024. It was developed on the Unreal Engine 4, not 5, and it was released on the PlayStation 5. And therefore, our review is on the PlayStation 5. It is a timed exclusive. It is estimated to release on PC at some point, either at the end of this year or early next year, but it is coming to PC. It may or may not come to other consoles. For the sake of this review and to get this out of the way very quickly in terms of discussing graphics, performance options, graphic options, I think all of that is nonsense. I'm a PC player. I'm not going to hold the performance or the graphics against the game. The game is beautiful. The game looks even better than the first one. It is absolutely beautiful. It builds on it. The open world is incredibly vast. It is impeccable in terms of its world design and its art direction and aesthetic. It is beautiful. The locations are diverse, intricate, and unique. You always know where you are. You never really get lost. It's not really a jumbled mess. The designs are brilliant. The level design is brilliant. The mission design is brilliant. I have absolutely no complaints. So I'm not going to hold performance against it, especially because this is very similar to what we ran into with Final Fantasy VII Remake, if you remember that review. Again, we're winding the clock back to the dark times of COVID, but it is the limitations of Sony, and I'm not going to hold the limitations of a console against a game. It is my very clear recommendation that if you want to play at the highest end, if you want to play at 4K with 60 frames per second, if you want that experience, you shouldn't be buying consoles. You should be buying a PC. It's as simple as that. The pure, in terms of graphical and performance stability, that core experience is on PC. It's not on console. Consoles will always make compromises. It will compromise incredibly gorgeous, beautiful games. There will always be limitations because of the budget, because of the price you're spending it at. And if you want to continue to buy consoles and you want to continue to pay monthly or annual fees to be able to play online and do all those things, that's up to you. That's freely up to you. But objectively, I'm not going to hold performance modes or graphics modes against an incredible game that will beyond succeed on PC, just like Remake did. So, again, art direction is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous game. Limited by the PlayStation 5. Cannot wait to play this on PC. So this will really act as our overall review. I don't see a need to review it again as we did with the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. I don't see a point to it. I pretty much I know what we're getting into when it gets re-released. The story is absolutely thrilling. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to ruin the experience. If you've never played Final Fantasy, this is a great entry point. If you've played Final Fantasy, this is a true and worthy successor and worth your time. It is immediately engrossing. Even when you think you know what's coming, if you've played the original Final Fantasy VII, as I did, even if you immediately know what's coming, there are so many surprises and so much depth to the characters beyond even what the original did. And I say that as someone who played the original twice. We purchased the game when it was released because when we were in Japan, and then when we were back in America, we purchased it again. This game has so much meaning and value to me. It was a game that we pretty much took on as my dad, myself, and my sister rotating playing this game. There is immense value in this title. There is immense nostalgia in this title. And to see where they took inspiration and where they built upon it and where they went beyond it narratively is a true immersive experience. There is no greater depth afforded to the characters than this title. What they have managed to do with the relationships, the interpersonal relationships, and the exploration of these characters is taking to such a loving degree. Everything in this story, everything with every character is made and treated with the absolute care and the absolute love. That cannot be understated. In terms of mission design and in terms of replayability, of course, there is the difficulty, and there is a wealth of content to explore and play here if you want to give that time for your game. You can pretty much, this will vary a little bit. In terms of playing it on various difficulties, on average. And again, your mileage is going to vary depending on if you shoot straight through the main campaign or, again, do a bunch of side quests. But you're looking at minimum a 22-hour campaign and, again, pushing into 60 hours to fully explore it. That is amazing, especially coming off of AAA titles where to do everything was the 20-hour mark. And I applaud that. And then you get into the replayability, the difficulty. There is so much here in this game, and none of it feels cheap. The missions are fun. The missions are always a great little side attraction. There is a great deal of variety. There's a great deal of goofiness. There's a deal of silliness, but it's all done with love, and it all feels very fun. There are some missions where you honestly cannot expect, like, oh, I'm doing this, and then another mission where you're going off, and it's basically like a death match. And then, of course, you have the driving push of the main narrative, and those key missions, those key story missions they're just iconic. They're just immediately classics. That's all there is to it. They are instantly iconic, right down to the bosses and to the strategy and to the gameplay. Obviously, materia plays a role, but then there's also the synergized mechanic where you can basically enable party members to sync up attacks, and again, really great flourishes in addition to the expanded kind of exploration of the folio, and a unique take on the skill tree system is the best way that I can kind of lay it out in really layman's terms. But the depth of the gameplay and the depth of personalization that you can give to the builds of your characters, again, between synergizing, between leveling up, choosing skills, experimenting with materia, you can really make this your own personal experience. You can truly define these characters to what you want to be when you go into the game, and the game can be as legitimately as fast-paced as you want it to be, or it can be as methodical as you want it to be in terms of pausing it. There is no game that balances the honor and legacy of the active time battle system as does Remake and now Rebirth and what it builds upon. If you played Remake, you pretty much know what you're getting into. And in terms of those closing final thoughts, and to be very clear here, you don't have to have any previous experience with Final Fantasy to play this game. You really don't. You don't even have to have played Remake. Now, it is in my utmost opinion that you do play Remake, even if you play this first, to go back and to have that initial Chapter 1, Part 1 experience. But you don't need to even have a relationship with the original Final Fantasy VII to appreciate and love the characters, the dynamics, the story, the missions, and the structure, and every little loving detail that went into crafting this. And legitimately, objectively, it is made with love. If you are a fan, the Easter eggs, the ample evidence, it is there in every single moment-to-moment gameplay. It does not nickel and dime you. It does not take the player, the fan base, or the nostalgia for granted, and it rewards you. It rewards you if you've played the original. It rewards you if this is your first Final Fantasy title ever, because the gameplay is so pure, so immersive, and it blends so well with amazing world and level design and boss design. This is an essential game. It is only February, and we are already experiencing a Game of the Year contender. Again, This is an essential game. This needs to be a part of every gamer's library. It is absolutely worth it. It is honestly, legitimately worth the price of admission. There is more here than most AAA titles. There's more here than most blockbuster movies. This is an experience that is so easy to slip back into, come back into, and have a great time with the combat. It is that incredible right up to those final moments where if you're not engaged at the end of this game, if you're not emotionally invested, then I really don't know what to say to you. Because no matter how many times I've replayed the original Final Fantasy VII over the years, how many times I replayed Final Fantasy VII Remake, by the end of this game, I was incredibly emotionally invested on that sofa, right there with my wife. It was that immersive and that captivating of an experience. It is an essential game. And that is why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a 5 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching, and I want to thank my patrons, and I want to give a special shout out to Treasure Valentine. Thank you all so much for your continued support. You can support us by following the link in the description below. We have tiers starting as low as $1 a month. Again, above all else and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.